Women in all their diversities, persons of diverse sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, youth and persons with disabilities are more than just vulnerable groups, but actors of change, development and progress when it comes to building resilient communities and a resilient Pacific in the face of climate change. However, there is no question that they are vulnerable to developmental exclusion, vulnerable to not being consulted or involved in adaptation and mitigation planning and efforts. When attended to, such consultation and inclusion enables communities to be truly resistant to climate change, both physically and socially resilient. When we consider the gender dynamics of our Pacific, we must account not for just women in all their diversities, including young women and rural women, but also the LGBTQI community, who, like women, often face exclusion at a social level and thus at a developmental level. Youth, one of the largest demographics in the Pacific, according to UNICEF in 2011. Pacific people between 15 and 24 estimated at 2 million, a fifth of the total population, and 15 to 30 making up a quarter of all Pacific people. Yet, youth constantly have to challenge the mindset of being leaders of the future and have demonstrated not only willingness of act in times of disaster and strife, but also expressingly wish to be included as well in the social and developmental structures that dictate the future of their homes, communities, and countries. In the Pacific, an estimated 1.708 million people have some form of disabilities. Individuals with disabilities are disproportionately affected in disaster, emergency, and conflict situations due to the lack of accessibility in evacuation, response, and recovery efforts, and exclusion of disability issues in planning and preparedness, and the lack of participation of persons with disabilities and the organization in the process. The Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities, or CRPD, mandates all state parties to ensure and promote the full realization of all human rights and fundamental freedoms for all persons with disabilities without discrimination of any kind on the basis of disability. This also includes the necessary measures to ensure the protection and safety of persons with disabilities in situations of risk, armed conflict, humanitarian emergencies, and the occurrence of natural disasters. These are Pacific peoples that want to and should be part of the solution in the face of climate change and the onset effects of changing weather patterns and more devastating natural disasters. Without these components of our Pacific communities feeling secure in the face of these changes, no one does. Not only will we have to battle the environment ravaged by industrialized countries, but we will be battling ourselves in the wake of conflicts and disasters exacerbated by exclusion and poor development. In all developmental actions, be it national budgetary processes, working with external development partners, relocation plans for communities most at risk, or adaptive infrastructural development, consultation must occur, particularly to ensure that these communities and persons are included, their opinions accounted for, their needs addressed, and their leadership recognized to enable peaceful transitions and a stable social environment. Marginalization continues today, despite commitments made by Pacific states through ratification of UN conventions, constitutions, or otherwise. With or without these explicit commitments, the huge gap remains of meaningful inclusion in decision-making and in development. At a community level, it is women and youth that are at the forefront of disaster response, yet their work and capacity is not recognized in NDMO strategies. This needs to change. Lived experiences by youth, women, the LGBTQI community, and persons with disabilities need to be taken into account to ensure that the way forward counts for everyone's needs. Humanitarian action, development, and addressing climate change can no longer be simply the business of international bodies, the scientific community, and often older male-dominated space of decision-making. It is everyone's business. Everyone has a stake in how we address and mitigate against and adapt to climate change.